Baltimore police arrest 2 more teens in connection with July's mass shooting.
This young man ruined his life by making this decision.
Our team digs through the charging documents that allege the two acted together, plus the continued calls from prosecutors to change juvenile justice laws that they say tie their hands. Then reports of guns and drugs at past Brooklyn Day events.
They should have staffed that party.
We question why police didn't take more precautions this year if they knew about potential danger. Look at this video of a city councilman in a tussle with a security guard, what led up to the confrontation. Howard County parents voicing their frustrations on school bus issues.
My children have to walk 2 miles each way.
Their demands to ensure their kids have a safe ride to school.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. 2 more young suspects arrested in connection to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting exactly 60 days after the tragedy.
Baltimore police reveal 18-year-old Aaron Brown and 14-year-old in custody are facing more than 90 charges between them.
But neither have been charged with murdering 20-year-old Kylas Fagbemi or 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez. 4 people have now been arrested, all 18 and younger.
These young people that we're discussing today made the wrong choice that ended lives and changed countless forever. As a result, they will be held accountable to the full extent of the law.
Aaron Brown faces 75 counts, including attempted murder. Police say they have surveillance video of Brown entering the Brooklyn Day block party with 18-year-old Tristan Jackson. He was arrested earlier this month.
And according to charging documents, Brown started firing a gun at the block party around 12:30 a.m. on July 2nd. Police say Brown admitted to shooting at 3 people on Gretna Court, the center of the crime scene. He says they started firing at him first. Brown is already in custody related to an attempted murder in May.
The 14-year-old is the youngest person facing charges connected to the shooting. He faces 18 counts, but police still didn't go into detail because of his age.
His arrest reigniting debate about juvenile justice laws in Maryland and how young people should be held accountable.
Our team coverage begins with Mackenzie Frost, who has a closer look, at whether or not this arrest could be a tipping point for lawmakers.
That's certainly the question that we're asking legislative leaders. Here we have another young person facing various serious charges. And the prosecutors that we're talking to from around the state are all saying the same thing. The juvenile laws right now just aren't working.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today.
Baltimore police announcing another arrest in the Brooklyn mass shooting.
And a 14-year-old juvenile male of Baltimore were both served with warrants yesterday.
Just as the 14-year-old set to start a new chapter of life.
With the assistance of Baltimore School Police, took the juvenile male into custody at a local school.
Now facing 18 charges.
This young man ruined his life by making this decision.
This young teen adds to the growing list of juvenile crime examples, a crisis prosecutors are begging lawmakers to address. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says the Juvenile Justice Reform Plan and the Interrogation Act
has tied our hands also. The interrogation. We must do something.
But it's not just Bates in Baltimore.
I think that we need to revisit a lot of these changes that we made.
Baltimore County's top attorney.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
From Carroll County to Calvert and Wacomico, top prosecutors telling Fox 45 News there are few, if any, consequences, and the offenders know it when it comes to juvenile crime, even down in overwhelmingly Democratic Montgomery County.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
And that is happening. Baltimore County Police arresting an 11-year-old for stealing cars 13 times since May 31st, only to bring him back to his parents, too young to face charges.
That's what uninsured motorists for, people like you.
The same thing in the city. Video obtained by Fox 45 News showing another 11-year-old released to family after allegedly stealing a car. Time and time again, leaders speaking out against the General Assembly's changes to juvenile crime laws. In Prince George's County, a 15-year-old known as Baby K charged in a brutal bus attack.
Under the new laws of the state of Maryland, it has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
We have 15 and 14-year-olds running about our community at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, armed and dangerous, unaccountable, and unafraid. None of us feel safe. I don't feel safe stopping at a gas station to get gas.
One of the architects of the juvenile reform laws, Senator Jill Carter. She stands by what happened.
Should there be some steps that can be codified to ensure that there is accountability for their actions?
You mean for the children?
Yes.
The under 13s?
Yes.
So I don't know that there should be anything codified for them. I mean, I think already.
Doesn't that send the message that they
like
won't
I've
be held
said,
accountable?
that the court can have the ability to have oversight and make decisions, take the child out of the home, order certain programs and stuff. The belief that laws need to be changed because nothing can be done is part of a false narrative that's been spread.
But prosecutors and police who are on the ground disagree and argue if lawmakers don't act, the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland will likely continue or get worse. I got a statement from Senate President Bill Ferguson about the latest news of this juvenile facing charges, and he tells me that during the next legislative session, lawmakers will consider making changes to the current laws to ensure there are consequences for young people's actions. You can read his full statement on our website at foxbaltimore.com. House Speaker Adrian Jones did not respond to our request for a comment. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Some community leaders in Baltimore are calling for change. Pastor P.M. Smith has spent time working with young people in Baltimore. He says the governor and lawmakers need to do more.
Total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something. They have the authority. They just won't. Our governor could call a special session. He has authority. He just won't. There will be no accountability. I don't care how much the mayor talks about it. I don't care how much Mr. Moore talks about it. I don't care how much the legislators talk about it, Mr. Ferguson or Ms. Jones, until you exercise the authority that you have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it. So there's blood on their hands, whether it's the young person dying or the young person injuring and killing somebody else.
Well, during a recent sit-down with political commentator Armstrong Williams, Governor Moore also said Maryland's juvenile crime laws need to be re-examined.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability. When you have a person who is a repeat violent offender, I'm sorry, I'm coming after you.
Well, the governor stopped short of mentioning specific changes. Fox 45 News followed up with the governor's office asking what changes he thinks are necessary to ensure real measurements of accountability. We also asked why the governor thinks Maryland should wait for the General Assembly to return in January for those changes to be made. And does the governor believe the Department of Juvenile Services is broken and not holding juveniles accountable for crimes they're accused of committing?
The governor's office sent Fox 45 News a statement saying the governor will continue working with lawmakers and community leaders to bring solutions that provide real measures of accountability. But again, no specifics on what he wants to change.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think lawmakers are ignoring the juvenile crime crisis? So far, 94% of people who voted say yes. You can make your voice heard at foxbaltimore.com.
And you can also contact your lawmakers. We have their phone numbers and email addresses listed right there on your screen. To reach House Speaker Adrian Jones, call 410-841-3800. For Senate President Bill Ferguson, the number to call, 410-841-3600.
If you want to connect with elected leaders, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click the menu at the top left of your screen and select lawmakers. You can enter your home address to find elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels. There are growing calls for parents to be held accountable for young children accused of crimes who can't be prosecuted. Legal experts are split on whether it's a viable solution.
I think it will have some legal hurdles, but realistically, I think there should be some punitive measures put in place for parents that aren't doing the right things.
I don't agree with that because, like I said, the same prosecutorial officers will prosecute that parent for disciplining their child in hopes that the child doesn't involve themselves in criminal behavior. And so you just can't have it both ways.
Fox 45 News reached out to every state's attorney in Maryland asking their opinions on juvenile crime. You can see their reactions at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, these arrests coming just one day after 3 city organizations released after-action reports outlining failures in the days leading up to the mass shooting and how officials are working to make change. Police acknowledging they failed to have adequate presence in Brooklyn the night of the shooting, despite some officers being aware of the block party taking place. According to the report, BPD also knew about illegal guns and drugs at past Brooklyn Day parties, potentially connected to known drug dealers running this year's party. So why weren't police better prepared given their prior knowledge? Fox 45 Jeff Abel continues our team coverage. He has a closer look for us. Jeff?
Well, you know, city leaders have long complained that they had little or no knowledge of the Brooklyn Day event in July, but there are now new indicators that seem to be telling a much different story.
We needed a detailed, unabashed accounting of what led to this mass shooting.
The after-action report into the Brooklyn mass shooting blames police for failing to assess the risk of the party and failing to properly respond. But does it go far enough?
Things went bad because there was no police presence at all. But there was also no communication from the mayor's office.
In fact, deep inside the report are details of the city's deployment plan for last year's Brooklyn Day event, in which the city warned the troops about the party's connection to drug dealers and illegal guns. Authors of last year's plan wrote, the event is financially supported by individuals living in the community and who have historical connections to the sale of controlled dangerous substances. The report also warns that assaults, traffic disruption, the targeting of law enforcement, and the apparent disregard for legal parameters are commonly observed. In fact, the night before the Brooklyn event, an accused drug dealer drove a U-Haul to Brooklyn homes and began unloading party supplies purchased for the Brooklyn Day event.
A lot of sticks, a lot of guns, a lot of drugs, a lot of money, a lot of all that.
Year after year,
Celebrated the right way.
online videos have promoted the Brooklyn party using drinking and drugs in its online promotions.
I do find it very hard to believe that they didn't know it was coming this weekend. They had parties in 2020, 2021, 2022. So it would go to reason that whatever they're trying to prevent still hasn't been stopped. So we need to foreshadow that this is coming.
The city has yet to explain the absence of a deployment plan this year, like the ones prepared in years past. City Council is hoping to address some of these unanswered questions at a second public hearing scheduled for next month. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. The mother of 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez, one of 2 victims killed, says police should have known about the block party. She says they should have been prepared.
The night my daughter was shot, that's the same thing they said. The very first thing they said is we didn't know about it until earlier today. And I said to my husband, then they're lying.
Well, some political experts say city leaders need to be taking more responsibility for what happened in Brooklyn.
They've kind of expressed sympathy, frustration, etc. But, you know, there's the expression that President Truman said, the buck stops here. The question about ownership is also one other thing. What's going to be the aftermath? What's going to be the consequences?
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has the potential political impact of the way this investigation was handled. That's coming up in about 20 minutes.
Well, the big story for tonight into this weekend is clearing skies and eventually a warming trend. But for now, almost crisp. Temperatures at 72 Baltimore. We're at 68 at Aberdeen, 60s and 70s elsewhere. Moonlit, beautiful skies after that blue supermoon we had last night. Temperature at 58 degrees here in Baltimore right now, 54 at Westminster. In the 60s at Annapolis as we head into the overnight hours. Temperatures in the 50s on the eastern shore. Going to need a light jacket there, and some 50s west of the city as well as you head up towards the mountains. I'm going to let you know how things shape up if you're headed to the beaches this weekend and when we could see our next chance of rain and when we could be near 100. That's right. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, a man is accused of going on a rampage, dousing his home with gasoline and threatening to kill his family. What you need to know about the search for the suspect in tonight's Maryland's Most Wanted. Howard County parents bring their frustration with ongoing bus problems right to the school board, what the board decided to do about it. And right after the break, Fox 45 News obtains video showing Councilman Dorsey in a scuffle with a security guard at Lexington Market. What we know about the incident and how his constituents are reacting. Fox 45 News obtained video showing Councilman Dorsey getting into a bit of a scuffle with a security guard at Lexington Market.
The video appears to show the two arguing over Dorsey's bike before getting into some kind of tug of war over it.
That's right. Fox 45's Keith Daniels has a closer look at what happened and the reaction from those who live in his district.
It unfolded at Lexington Market. City Councilman Ryan Dorsey inside the historic marketplace with his bike. What happened next caught on security footage obtained exclusively by Fox 45 News. Look at the video. Once inside, Dorsey is seen stopped by a security guard. There's a brief conversation. Dorsey continues walking into the market with his bicycle. The security guard follows Dorsey, which prompts the lawmaker to turn around. He points at the guard repeatedly. It's unclear what the councilman said while pointing at the security guard. The video we obtained does not include sound. When the security guard begins to pull Dorsey's bicycle back outside, the two men end up fighting for control of the bike. The tussle continues as the security guard pulls the bicycle.
That was Keith Daniels reporting. If you'd like to see the video in its entirety, it's posted on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, one person is dead, another 18 are injured after a bus crash early this morning along Maryland Route 32 in Howard County. Police say a Greyhound carrying 38 people hit a Buick, which was actually going the wrong way. A 37-year-old from Columbia died at the scene. The bus driver and 17 passengers were taken to the hospital.
The Pilots Association for Southwest Airlines is holding a multi-base picket at several U.S. airports. This is video from BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. There were also pickets in Los Angeles, Houston, Chicago, and Atlanta. The Pilots Association has been trying to reach an agreement with the airline over what pilots claim are unfair scheduling practices.
We've had, thousands and thousands of days off taken from us over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, from being forced to work on days off. They call it JA, and that happens every day. And so our pilots are frustrated. We want to improve our work rules, and really the idea is to make the company more efficient.
This comes as flight attendants at American Airlines voted to strike. Last week, the airline reached a deal with their pilots that gives them at American a 21% raise and a 46% raise by 2027.
Well, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol has recovered 12 stolen vehicles and a farm combine from the Port of Baltimore. Those seizures valued at more than $400,000. Agents have intercepted more than $11 million worth of stolen vehicles over the past year.
A threat to kill by fire. I'm Alexa Ashwell. The critical mistake investigators say was made that allowed a suspect to elude police, coming up on Maryland's Most Wanted.
New concerns tonight about mental and physical health of America's top leaders after another scare caught on camera. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look.
And if you have a getaway plan for the Labor Day holiday weekend, all systems go for tomorrow. Lots of sunshine, dry, beautiful, cool start. Now, it looks like it stays bright and warm for Saturday, highs in the 80s, but it does turn hotter for Sunday and Labor Day, but no rain. So getaways down the ocean should be just fine. We've got some rough seas through tomorrow, but those should calm down Saturday, Sunday, and Labor Day. Look at those hot, high temperatures. Getting up to near 90 by Labor Day. Water temperatures in the mid-70s. I'm going to let you know about a big heat wave around here. We could threaten 100 coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
As we head to break, this is a live look at the Towson Circle at the end of a beautiful day.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is facing more health questions after appearing to freeze during a news conference yesterday. Doctors cleared McConnell, saying he was possibly dehydrated at the time. It is the second time in recent months that McConnell has frozen speaking with the media. But it's not just McConnell under the microscope for his age.
Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman examines the debate in Washington over whether some politicians are too old for office.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test?
Even before he was elected, questions arose about President Biden's mental sharpness that then only grew after physical falls or instances of perceived confusion.
We need to make sure we've got someone at the top of their game. Joe Biden is not at the top of his game.
A survey of our viewers overwhelmingly shows they believe Biden's not mentally or physically fit for another 4 years. But now Republicans have in-party pressures on that front too, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had a second public spell of freezing up in front of cameras, seemingly unable to briefly speak.
There is a time to lead and a time to pass on the torch to another generation.
There's often been scrutiny over politicians' fitness to serve, but in this case, it is two of Washington's most powerful positions. And the worries not just over age, but also acuity, which is also being questioned of California's Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's appeared confused after returning from a long absence due to poor health.
Yeah, just say aye. Okay, just aye. Thank you.
Though age limits are seen as an easier standard to measure and cap, and of course, term limits. One Democrat considering running against Biden posting, "For goodness sake, the family, friends, and staff of Senators Feinstein and McConnell are doing them and our country a tremendous disservice. It's time for term limits for Congress and the Supreme Court and some basic human decency."
The people who would be term limited would need to vote for that. That's not going to happen.
Though more and more Americans saying that time has come. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think there should be age limits for elected officials? So far, 91% of people who voted said yes. You can still make your voice heard right now by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can visit foxbaltimore.com/vote. Just click on the Pulse tab.
2 more arrests are made in connection with the Brooklyn Day shooting. Why the investigation could have political implications.
And new findings in the Harford County privacy saga. Why one councilman says he has more proof of Bob Castley allegedly spying on county employees.
We're following three big stories right now. New developments in the controversy over privacy concerns in Harford County. Why one council member says he has proof County Executive Bob Casserly allegedly spied on employees, and Casserly's response to that claim.
Howard County School Board meets to address school bus delays and no shows this week. How they're planning to fix the issue as outraged parents voice their concerns.
2 more arrests are made in connection to the Brooklyn Day shooting, as Baltimore police say their work is far from over.
I want to be very clear, this investigation is not ending anytime soon. Every tool in our tool belt will be used to identify and apprehend those responsible for this horrific and tragic incident.
Well, we begin with the update on the mass shooting investigation.
And 2 more arrests are made in connection to the shooting, an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Police say the 18-year-old Aaron Brown faces 75 charges, including conspiracy to commit murder and attempted first-degree murder. The 14-year-old faces 18 charges. Police say he was arrested today while at Patterson High School. Police also say Aaron Brown acted alongside Tristan Jackson, the 18-year-old arrested earlier this month. The teens were allegedly seen entering the Brooklyn Day block party together on police surveillance. When questioned about the shooting, Brown says he fired shots on Gretna Court in the middle of the party. Brown was already in custody before today's announcement on charges of attempted murder for a shooting back in May.
Now, the after-action report is also leading to a debate over who should be held accountable. While political analysts say city leaders had strong words yesterday, they say only time will tell if action matches those words. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker explains.
From the community,
I think the police pretty much dropped the ball for that community.
To city council members.
I think the lack of seriousness, I think, was a little bit shocking in reading parts of the report that we saw from the police department.
It's not right.
To a mother grieving the loss of her 18-year-old daughter at the Brooklyn Day shooting.
I don't get to see her married. I don't get to see her starting a family. I don't get to see any of that.
There's disappointment and distrust coming from nearly every corner of the city following the release of the after-action report.
I can't be any more honest than to tell you we made mistakes.
City leaders admitting fault.
This morning, we're here to take the first step in addressing the shortfalls of city government.
And promising accountability at a press conference yesterday, highlighting failures within several city agencies on the day of the shooting.
This mass shooting is one of the most painful chapters in our city's history, which has had more than its fair share of painful chapters.
But for one of the worst days in Baltimore's history, is city leadership really stepping up and owning their shortfalls?
I don't know if they've owned it enough.
Political analyst John Deedy doesn't think so.
They've kind of expressed sympathy, frustration, etc. But, you know, there's the expression that President Truman said, the buck stops here. The question about ownership is also one other thing. What's going to be the aftermath? What's going to be the consequences?
Police saying some have been disciplined for their actions that day, and the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement are praising their response, despite several unanswered questions about safe streets.
They need to be a little bit more aggressive about dealing with this. And at the same time, you know, it's all well and good to say, you know, we're going to put something in someone's file that they did something wrong and, okay, they're being disciplined. But disciplining these police officers doesn't bring the victims back. And, you know, the key thing is what is going to be long-term to make sure there's better community engagement with the police.
Deedy says voters will not forget this historic shooting. And depending on if and when solutions are implemented, it could impact Mayor Scott, who's up for re-election.
It's how he's going to handle tomorrow. You know, but because the thing is, people will give you a little bit of a pass for the first kind of incident, and you have to deal with it. But if there's a second thing like this, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you already, it's kind of like flunking a test that you've taken twice.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on the block party and the aftermath. Find our complete coverage at foxbaltimore.com. Well, now we go back to the video showing Councilman Ryan Dorsey in an apparent tussle with a security guard at Lexington Market.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels has a closer look at what happened.
It unfolded at Lexington Market. City Councilman Ryan Dorsey inside the historic marketplace with his bike. What happened next, caught on security footage, obtained exclusively by FOX45 News. Look at the video. Once inside, Dorsey is seen stopped by a security guard. There's a brief conversation. Dorsey continues walking into the market with his bicycle. The security guard follows Dorsey, which prompts the lawmaker to turn around. He points at the guard repeatedly. It's unclear what the councilman said while pointing at the security guard. The video we obtained does not include sound. When the security guard begins to pull Dorsey's bicycle back outside, the two men end up fighting for control of the bike. The tussle continues as the security guard pulls the bicycle towards the entrance. After moving outside, several other security guards can be seen approaching Councilman Dorsey. A Lexington Market spokesperson tells us Councilman Dorsey has filed a complaint, and the matter is working its way through the legal system. That spokesperson also confirmed bicycles are not permitted inside Lexington Market.
Obviously, things got a little heated.
Dorsey represents District 3, which includes Northeast Baltimore. We took the video to his constituents, stopped at Walther Avenue and Southern. They watched it and commented about their representative.
If the directions say that he shouldn't have a bike, then he shouldn't have a bike in there. He should follow the rules.
Well, we all have those moments, and maybe he was going through something, and he reacts without thinking.
I think the rules should apply to everyone. So if they apply to one person, they should apply to another. So if he wasn't supposed to have his bike, he shouldn't have had his bike.
Meanwhile, Dorsey did not respond to our request for comment. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
The Council on American Islamic Relations is recommending stepped-up security measures at Baltimore area mosque after two mosques in the DMV received threatening calls in recent weeks. The Islamic Society of Baltimore canceled all evening events today after it received a suspicious call. Local and federal authorities are investigating.
The Howard County School Board facing some tough questions from parents over the district's ongoing bus issue. Thousands of students were left without a bus, forcing parents to find another way to get their kids to school. Several more students were forced to walk. Fox 45's Vincent Hill was at the school board meeting tonight, and he has the story.
Yeah, students stranded, late, and even walking miles to school, and parents say they're fed up.
4 days into the Howard County school year.
A driving concern of making certain that we have a driver on every bus.
The concern about transportation for students, top of mind during a school board meeting.
On Tuesday, approximately 340 routes were late arriving to schools during the morning commute.
The superintendent apologizing again to parents for not having a plan when the district chose to use California-based Zoom, whose drivers are from Washington State, many of them who have not showed up for work.
But as a result, we are moving on to Plan C, D, and E.
Those backup plans not sitting well with parents.
My children have to walk 2 miles each way to and from school. On the way to their high school, which is Hammond High School, there's not one single crossing guard.
According to the district website, 20 routes are canceled, throwing parents like Rebecca Jensen under the bus, so to speak, getting their students to class.
I start work the same time they start school. I get off at 5, they get out at 2:45.
Jensen says she's still stunned she found out last minute and fed up how the whole thing has been handled.
Has he walked these 2 miles? My children have to walk 2 miles each way to and from school.
The school board making a motion for a full review of the transportation mishap, but that measure
motion fails 4-1-3,
failing by split decision.
Walk with these kids. Get out and walk with them and see their challenges.
And to make matters worse, those drivers that are actually from Spokane, Washington, are set to go back to their home state later this week, leaving more buses parked and more students stranded. In Howard County, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Privacy concerns continue within the Harford County government as Councilman Aaron Penman says there's more evidence against County Executive Bob Casserly. Penman says Casserly spied on his emails and phone calls. Penman says a Public Information Act request found 2 emails showing Casserly requested emails, text messages, and phone call receipts between Penman and 5 other people. Penman acknowledged his records are accessible through the Maryland Public Information Act. Penman says his instance This instance actually was an overreach by the administration.
He didn't follow the procedures, the protocols that are in place. It's not only just unethical, but it's criminal. And I look forward to the state prosecutor concluding their investigation.
County Executive Casserly's office responded to Fox 45 News, saying a total of 5 emails were released that day and no text messages matched the search. Councilman Pittman says privacy issues will be brought up at next month's council meeting, saying legislation should be introduced to prevent this from happening in the future.
A 2-alarm fire destroys a home in northwest Baltimore. What we know about the massive scene and how neighbors jumped in to help.
And a good-looking day for heading to the State Fair tomorrow. It's day number 6. We're at 66 at 9 a.m., finishing the day in the mid-70s to near 80 degrees, but we could be about 20 to 30 degrees warmer than that in the next several days. Let you know how hot it could be for Labor Day. My Weather Authority forecast.